don't have to say it by me. So,
I used your words.
I know you did very well. I
when I
appreciate it.
spoke.
Appreciate
Ottawa
it.
Sands.
Appreciate it. I thought there was kind of, or especially for your situation at that, number one. Then I got thinking about which ones.
Yeah.
And I said a while back, we call out our assets. Our assets. That makes us a destination.
Yeah, we have a lot of hiking. We now have camping in town. Bike path. Pickleball. Beaches. Rivers. Kayaking. All kinds of
Trips.
lots of stuff.
Mhm.
I have to say a few words Friday night party. Talk about parks.
Like the one you added. I just picked up in the June.
Yeah.
Anyway. Absolutely. And also,
You got the fuzz like different times. I was shocked.
So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to do is emphasize the fact that it's very nice. And that who is that? What you could do there, that's mostly effective. There's not that much time to.
One thing I love is talking about when they very
In the city here.
and just people in general that business. And I talked to them. Hey, you're into bicycling? No, yeah. You've been here? Oh, yeah. I've been raving about it.
Wait until it's like I know I saw there's like catch and release. So the temperatures that, but
Oh, it's an exciting thing.
kayaking.
Fishermen love it because they don't know what they're gonna pull up.
Right?
Because it's all the fish there is eggs from birds. So when birds
Yeah.
take in their fish, so they're pulling up like walleye, just random things where you don't assume is gonna be in an inland lake. So when you go to like southwest down there, the guys like it over there. And then we get bird watchers, a couple migratory birds that come through.
Yep.
So when I was walking in like 2020, I get bufflehead, a lot of buffalo like those. Blackhead with they're cool to watch. Yeah, there is a couple hundred bufflehead.
If you follow Audubon, Audubon Society, they do a lot of bird watching. That's a notorious area for them to count to meet us here.
Right. Migratory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot. There's
Say.
corridors.
Glad when I was there, I don't think eagles are all the development. Yeah.
I grew up on
Maybe it just
Well, like this because
yeah.
you're gonna be out.
Yes.
Which island are you going?
Costa
So it's
What?
it's.
Oh, is that what it is?
Mhm.
Take me back to like
hard to-
high
it's hard
school
to-
geography.
In between the
say.
two continents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
How narrow.
Also on the,
Yeah.
I guess it-
We went, and it fun now, but like half of the trip she was bedridden. So all of our plans kind of got derailed. So we're 2-3 years later,
I was just riding in Honduras. We were there with the Rotary Club. And my orthopedic surgeon, a horse.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Are we-
Yeah, it was like $35 for an hour on the beach horseback ride. Like you can't, like yeah,
You can't do that.
yeah, with a
here.
guide, and like, it was the coolest thing. We went up in the mountains. It was so cool. But
Craig,
not
are
so
we
cool
waiting
my
for
mom.
David?
I think we should.
I mean, he is coming, right? He's coming. Oh, good.
Post office.
Yeah, this is an official meeting. We're discussing business.
The highway to we're frozen now.
Yes.
We can't do it. I came from Elgin, but I can just say it. We were going 15 with blinkers, right?
David?
Yeah.
All the
Grand
way up
Rapids.
to by Blaine.
You gotta bring back Zoom.
Right, or Blaine.
Yeah, I can imagine. Greg, what's the diet?
That's how to connect. The
Your
computer.
instructions?
I'm trying to follow
Those are
directions.
instructions.
With Amber's not here, you have to.
That's right.
I like this font.
Is that what you're gonna ask him when he gets here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's Arial 8. Oh, I have no clue.
There's a lot of stuff.
I think if you the underline.
It was nice though, just
Yeah.
Craig, since we have time, at our meeting that you and I were at today, they were talking about how they give special things for the tribes in Canada.
Yep.
First Nations.
Yep.
Are they doing the same thing for our local tribes here within the Great Lakes in the
The way the map looked, it just kind of showed that it was all through Michigan.
I wasn't sure if they were doing something special for our Native Indian tribes here, like they're doing in Canada with the First Nation.
I'll find out.
Like, and I went to a meeting by a group that essentially, I don't know, all about economics of St. Lawrence Sea to the country as a whole and to Canada as well.
What's
And what
the
we can do, what they, for a blue-green direction. Blue meaning water, good water for all of us for drinking and irrigation and whatever. And green operating in a clean way.
what group
But
is
the
this?
economy,
What group is this? Or what?
like a lobbying group, Craig, or a trade organization?
Their organization, that Lawrence Seaway. They're trying to get all the mayors to join it.
Put that big new lock in up there. It's
I don't know.
done, I thought.
Is it?
Yeah. Just open.
I'm coming.
so that, so the trip. That's from Canada. Thunder Bay used to be a big port.
Mhm.
It's not as much as-
Rain.
So much cheaper to ship the goods.
Thank you for putting Gary Post in.
Oh, I
Yeah.
saw that
Yeah.
income.
So the roads any better than they were when you started?
Better out this way.
Really?
Yeah.
Or are they the worst?
Coopersville.
Oh, that's
It's been
stretch
right
in
out
there.
to Coopersville.
Yeah, it comes across there, that black ice.
Thank you for coming.
I should have just stayed on 96, but my Google Maps told me to get off at Garfield, and I don't think that was a good idea.
And,
You know it wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, it's like this round is faster. It's I don't know. I'm just gonna do what I know from now on.
It gets so bad, you can just put them out here.
Their short-term rental, I can a single night short-term rental.
Okay, well, we will call this meeting to order at 7:11. And we've been delayed here. We knew our planner, David Jurosek, who comes from Grand Rapids, made the trip, which is kind of special to get here. So we wanted to wait until he got here because he is the author of the document we're going to talk about tonight. So therefore, it's important that we wait. Have roll call, please.
Chairman Jonas,
Present.
Commissioner Carlson,
Here.
Commissioner Weber.
Here.
Commissioner Holly, Commissioner Schoberg, Commissioner DeYoung,
Here.
Commissioner Tuggle.
Here.
Heather sent us an email not too long ago about she's not feeling well.
Yeah, I would make a motion to excuse Commissioner Schoberg and Commissioner Hawley. They both notified us that they would not be here.
Second.
Moved and seconded to excuse Commissioner Hawley, Commissioner Schoberg. All in favor, say aye.
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 Now, we have 5 of us. We have a quorum, we can do some business. So consideration for approval of December 11, 2024 agenda. Any additions or
Changes?
entertain a motion?
I move that we approve the December 11th, 2024. Is that correct? No. Yeah,
Yes,
approve the agenda. Is that correct?
yes.
I'll second.
Seconded to approve the agenda for December 11, 2024. Right? All in favor, say aye.
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 Now, consideration for approval of December 5th, 2024 meeting minutes as printed.
So
that
moved.
was
So
just
moved.
6 days ago.
So moved.
Support.
It's forward to approve the minutes of December 5th, 2024 meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Seven 14 seconds. Now, the meeting, you wonder why we called you here. It's work session for the master plan. And Mr. Jurosik has put together a draft. And that you always start with a draft of the whole document. Okay. Beautiful document. Proud of in Perrysburg. However, as with every document that's got so many numbers and letters and words and sentences and things in it, there are a couple things that perhaps could changed a little. Once in a while we catch a spelling error, that there's a proofing on it, but this is the document and goes to city council. But when's the notification date?
Well, the next step would be as soon as you're comfortable with a draft, you would have to forward to council to request authorization to distribute for the 42-day review period. The city council has to do that by a resolution. And that resolution, just getting probably too far in the weeds, that resolution also they have to assert their right for final approval. Otherwise, the planning commission can actually be the final approval body of the master plan. It's difficult for the city council would approve it. So it
City council.
has to be done, authorized the distribution by resolution. As soon as they do that, we can send out 42 days review period to all the adjacent jurisdictions. And then as soon as that 42 days is up, you could have your public hearing. So you could advertise for your public hearing before the 42 days is up, as long as as soon as it happens after the 42.
But the next step, city council meets next on December 16th, next Monday. Is it, we want it on that agenda or the one in January? January won't be until 16th also, right?
The 5th, I think.
No, not 16th, or excuse me,
The 5th, January 5.
5. Excuse me. You're out of the country on the 2nd, having surgery on the 2nd. I thought that was mixed up. That would be the next. Would this Monday, January, be the earliest that so
This agenda, we got the Stillwater PUD plus the TIF, plus we got Channel Side. So we have some busy agenda.
Not a lot of whole room in the inn, Roger, that day. Put it on there. January 5.
Did you want to be here for the meeting, Roger?
not necessarily, I could be in the audience, but I'm just thinking, this is a pretty important document. There's a lot in here, and I'm thinking that personally I could use a couple more. I didn't get the hard copy to review it. Now we could pass a draft on to the stipulation that you can always make suggestions. When does that period end? Stop making changes to the draft.
You continue to make changes until your approval and final recommendation to the city council. So what goes out as a draft to the agencies and nearby jurisdictions, it should be a close to 100% draft, but there certainly can be changes. Because I mean, having the public hearing after that 42 days, that's the official public comment session, so that it's anticipated that there would be some changes. My only thought would be just for distribution, I do need to work through this again with a fresh set of eyes.
Sure.
The numbers are recheck some of the survey results and the percentages. I just have some quality checking and general proofing to do, and then based on your conversation tonight, there might be some other minor edits. I know packets are going out tomorrow morning to council, so that's. I would prefer to hold off a couple weeks if we could, to maybe give it a final set of eyes by the commission, but again, whatever. You could also pass it on to council saying, recommend distribution contingent upon the planner working through this to make edits and various various changes, just without any substantial or content change. But I'm not sure what the council would think of that. But they may want to see the draft.
The final file. Says tweaking. Plus, some of us, we've got two people, right? They have a in. I'm just thinking, it won't hurt us wait a couple weeks. In other words, the next meeting would be the 4th.
Next planning commission is January 2nd. Next council will meet that following Monday, January 6th.
Everybody's-
I just think also with the holidays, if we try to push this on, and we have a lot going on right now. would di- Rush. Good way to go.
Councils on January 6th. The other option is we had talked about potentially meeting next Monday as well for another special meeting, but I don't know if you had that as an option, but I'm not sure how many people take that.
It's council, I think.
City council.
But the council meeting, there's upcoming Monday, okay.
That out. Okay, here's my thoughts. I had asked back in July, have a draft by the end of the year. We have a draft by the end of the year. My thinking is that this is what my thoughts were at the time, and as your chairman, I laid that out there as a challenge, if you will. And here we are, we have it. Therefore, that part of this is my swan song tonight. But I feel as though this is a good document. Like you see, a little tweaking here and there, or city council gets it, is not a bad thing. That gives us everybody a chance to weigh in. I mean, if you have any more things to weigh in on, I had a couple things. Let's see what you think. Nothing serial. Just, and then have everybody take up the process in January, move it to council. Approve. Council's busy anyway.
We are.
Won't we talk about those?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, we can start with that. So David has something to go on. And because everybody who's had the chance to go over it, so deserves a chance to say tonight what they've gone over. Not putting that off. Regina's weighed in, most part, in favor of everything. My one big thing, if I have one big thing, and that is first page of it, City of Parks. I would prefer to take out the Z and just put City of Parks in, because that is what we want of it to be. Slogan, if you will. That makes sense? Make it stand out.
Like when Facebook was the Facebook, now it's Facebook, so you take out the.
Yeah.
That's
and
meta.
it's,
That was meta.
Yeah.
The meta.
City of Parks.
You're with the times.
Now it's that. Well, that's all I have. That's all. I got to the first page.
Walk through chapter by chapter, or
Please.
follow with the highlights? Okay, so chapter 1, introduction. Page 7, just did a couple minor updates with general introduction information. Chapter 2, pages 9 and 10. So that's a new history section, and that's actually based on all your new boards in the hallway there. So I took all that information from boards, kind of summarized it and organized it, and put it here as a history section. Just to add a little bit more background and context. Thought that was a real good history and on the walls there, and so I figured great to transfer that over to the plan.
I had one comment. If we, are we taking comments as we go, or, okay. Page 7, I was wondering if we could have, in the very first sentence, have great pride in the city's parks and natural assets versus just natural assets.
Okay, so which paragraph in
The first sentence, welcome to Ferrysburg, Michigan, and it says citizens take great pride in the city's natural assets, and I thought we could put parks and natural assets.
These parks and natural assets.
I had said a number of weeks ago, I was thinking about rewriting that whole paragraph, and I still might do that. I think, same thing, back to emphasizing what our assets are, and then put that right up front. Now, later on, we talk about this, that, and the other things. That's my thought. I did not get to.
We're making comments as we go. I just, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of other sets of eyes on this, but I did notice on page 4 in the Ferrysburg Today, it says I think it's supposed to be history. It's just a spelling error, and I don't know if I just didn't catch it. So it'd be like page 9, unless that's a word I just am not aware of.
Page 9, what line was it?
Oh, sorry, page 4.
Oh, page 4.
Just
on
history.
the actual-
If it's supposed to be history, I think it's spelled incorrectly. So you might just have to fix that, but that's minor stuff.
In design, it's the grammar and spelling check is not as good as if you're billing in Word. So what I was going to do is export all the Word through Grammarly and spell check and everything. So I'm going to do that as a kind of a final editing as well.
Perfect.
So InDesign's a little harder. It doesn't have the best grammar check and spell check on it. So.
And I find that I have to read twice, one for content, one for proofread.
Roger. I'm thinking on page 9, which is history, that somewhere in those paragraphs in history, we need to mention about Smith's Bridge and how long the bridge has been a part of the transportation here in Southwest Michigan. Additionally, if I go on to page 13, in that first paragraph on page 13, it concludes basically that we're still, it's all about essentially Smith's Bridge. It gives more details about Smith's Bridge than what you're going to mention in the history. But the conclusion of that isn't that we're continuing to assess funding opportunities. We're beyond that now. And I don't know how to word it, but.
As I looked at this, I did realize that I needed some more up-to-date information on the project.
Yeah.
So I think, is there anything through your grant funding applications or any write-ups that you have, Craig, that would be helpful to just get a status update, or any information you can have? I can just put in the most up-to-date. Yeah, I did realize that paragraph was probably going to be a little bit out of date there. So.
And then in conclusion, on page 9 in the history, a sentence or maybe 2 about the historical nature of Smith's Bridge and the part that it played here in Michigan. Because there's only so many ways you can get across the rivers around here. I don't know. Is it the only historical plaque in town?
Yep.
Is that right, Craig?
Sorry?
Is that the only historical plaque in town? Is it Smith's Bridge?
Yep.
Not Johnson Boiler?
No.
Okay, not yet. Might be something to mention as well.
While we're on page, third paragraph down. Ferrysburg is the youngest of the Tri-Cities. Tri-Cities is a term that's been dropped largely because the Chambers dropped it because we're city of Berg and a village. We're not. So we kind of dropped. So the youngest of the municipalities in Northwest County. Northwest Iowa County.
And there may be another reference or two to Tri-Cities, so I can maybe
If you
just
would- if you would,
generalize
please.
that to the.
That would- On page, in the first paragraph, talks about the new highway bypassed Ferrisburg. Actually, the new highway bisected Ferrisburg. Bypass. But just
It's a word.
I see a mention of Tri-Cities at the top of page 11, just to note. Very top, so if you're, I don't know if your software will pick that up, but just,
Yeah, I can word search that
Okay.
just in the to just make sure it's
I'll keep looking. I like to be really picky. And when we had the Ferrisburg outing at the Historical Museum too, it was Ferrisburg night there, celebrating our 60th. We had a panel, and the Historical Society people kept talking about Tri-Cities. So I said, "Can you name the Tri-City?" Of course, nobody can. Okay, moving on. Anything else in 11? Maps, we pretty much have to leave up to you even as far as what's correct and what's not. Some of this is beyond our purview, I think.
I'll read through the whole thing, and I did not focus on some of the paragraphs that weren't underlined. I might still go back and just read those and just make sure everything's still accurate, but
Sure.
that wasn't the focus of this last draft. But I'll give that a quick once over as well.
Page 13, I had natural features. It says 3 different bodies of water. I would call them out. And I thought it was more like 13 miles. I guess if you include the bayous, it hiked it up quite a bit, but we did a study one time about how much that entails with counting Spring Lake, Grand River, and Lake Michigan. That up again. Craig, you had somebody in the office do that.
I do have some information from Craig's intern to add in as well, some inventory information that's on my list to add in.
That's my reference. Anything else on 12-13?
On 13, it's referenced that the bridge is the West Spring Lake Road Bridge. I'm questioning whether it should be known as Smith's Bridge. Or also known as Smith's Bridge, something.
This bridge on West Spring Lake Road.
Was that what it used to be called? Are they referring to their name or?
MDOT refers to it as West Spring Lake Road Bridge.
Do they? That's why I'm wondering about using both terms.
I think we could be consistent. Bridge.
Is that an official name of the bridge? Are bridge names official, or is that just something that, a term that's been coined, or?
Smith's Bridge?
Yeah.
It's just coined.
Okay.
Since Miss Bayou, though.
Wow.
You could have a special bridge that goes. Yep.
Or today as a nickname.
Oh, yeah?
With nickname.
Oh,
I can always Spring Lake Road, as known to, or as titled by MDOT, known locally as Smith's Bridge, something like that, and then maybe just use Smith's Bridge throughout the rest of the document.
I'm at 16.
I think on 16, I might just check back on my memory banks and files and just mention some of the other commercial developments that we've approved in the last couple of years as well. So I might just do a couple updates there. Existing land use, commercial, industrial.
I have a question on the map on 17, and it sounds like maybe you already had this on your list, but just that undeveloped portion where Channel Side is. And I think the other neighbor is within that area that says undeveloped as well. That might need an update.
Got it. Okay. Yes. So what I'll do is I'll look through the last several site plan reviews just to make sure I have all the more recent ones. I may reference them in the paragraph, and then I'll double check the map and just call it the parcels coordinate.
Yeah, because it looks like that undeveloped section, it looks like it goes almost to Walden Green with a couple of those smaller lots along 174th, but I think that there's another residence that's, the one that's closer to Channel Side, I think should probably be on there too.
So
This map was built in Illustrator, so I'm able to update it without having to get GIS folks involved. So
Cool.
almost hugged Max Dillman, who was our previous planner I worked with, when I realized he made the maps in design. So I can make those edits pretty easily.
Cool.
I'm sorry, Illustrator.
So moving ahead to page 18, so this is, the emphasis is parks. I think this might be a big undertaking for this go around, but in the future, I feel like we have a lot of material here, and I think it'd be really cool to maybe show pictures of these parks. If we're gonna coin ourselves the city of parks, I feel like this section should maybe be a little more developed. And I know that it's new this term, and I know we have a recreation plan, so it doesn't have to be as elaborate as that. But I feel like with the technology that we have, we could do maybe a different kind of layout that would have almost like a picture of the parks, each park, or something. Because this is, if that's what we want to emphasize, then this would be a great guide for people to look at to see what are the parks. I mean, I truly have lived in Perrysburg my entire life, and until I joined the Recreation Commission, I didn't know all of the parks in Perrysburg. So I do now, but I'm sure there are others that don't. So this will way to educate people.
Great idea. Almost use another page in there.
Yeah.
Plus,
And
it shows the diversity of what we have too.
Looking at 18, and I can't find it in here what page it's on, but we talk about the yacht club not being within the city, but it's owned by the city of Spring Lake. The same thing could be, the same analogy could be used for KLH in the city of Grand Haven, but there's not much mention of KLH Dunes Preserve in this document, which is still an asset to the city. And then looking at page 18, sorry to segue back to 18. What's the logic behind not having the largest park in town as the first park listed, which would be Ottawa Sands? It's within the city. From a park standpoint, suddenly has become our largest park asset.
Looks like it might have been alphabetical.
Looks like, yep.
Yeah.
Or the
that's
city's website. So
Okay, well,
we can,
I would think that would be the one that you'd want to lead off on with, would be Ottawa Sands. Just thinking aloud here.
Followed by North Beach.
in serving on the rec commission, I have a kind of a differing perspective that it's not a city park, so that would be like almost a separate. I mean, it's a huge asset. I go to that park probably more than parks, but well, Sunnyside's a close second.
It's a huge asset for the
It is now.
community.
I mean, it always has been, but now even more so.
And unlike KLH, at least it's within the city limits as well.
The yacht club is in the city of Perrysburg.
Yes. But there isn't much mention of the KLH Dune Preserve out of the city limits, but the city is responsible for its caretaking, or its overseer. We're the trustees, aren't we, Craig, for KLH? Are we the trustees?
Yes.
Don't see William Ferry.
No, 19.
William Montague.
Oh, next page.
Oh.
Sometimes like master plan, like cities will put in just what they value. But like, I think one of the surrounding counties, they put in a lot about like youth engagement, the high school. So it's like not like a separate section, but like recreation in terms of natural. Yeah, you could end up going out on the park, putting pictures in, but that's what we're focused on. Future, because I understand.
If we want to coin the term city of parks, that's kind of what made me the park section.
Easy enough to insert pages and images, so there's a couple pictures. We coordinated on some of the pictures, public events and things like that. So I'm going to get numbers, photographs from the city for staff. So.
Craig, do we ever have like a photographer that comes, a professional photographer that comes and takes pictures at any of the events?
Never have.
No.
On page 19, the last paragraph, vacant land inventory, I don't think belongs on.
Okay. Shift that off of our park focus area. Okay.
Yeah. Then paragraph is that?
Yeah, I could probably put it on page 20, underneath the table.
On,
On that vacant land inventory map, I know in area number 2, which is the channel side 3, so I need to cut that parcel out of number 2 there. Number 7 is that channel side 2? Okay, that's what I was also thinking of. So we have to. So they purchased channel side 2 site from the city. Okay. Okay.
Same thing, number 7.
Okay, so so for 2 and 7, I think that should be 3 is okay. So I'll update the boundaries of. We'll take off 7 and amend 2.
Know this, but with vacant parcels, are any of these city owned or are they all owned by
Private.
privately owned?
I think number 6 is owned by West Michigan Academy.
Number 7 is owned by the city. On the curve there on.
And I was sold to channel side 2, so they'll update the map.
I just a little corner.
Do you know if any of these vacant parcels are for sale off the top of your head, or?
Number 2, the north part is for sale.
Oh, yes.
Number
for
3
sale.
is for sale.
Yep.
That's it.
That's
No.
No. Butter.
And number 4, that's just like the properties behind those houses on Jordan on the east side there.
They're
It's just
behind
like-
the houses on Jordan, but there's 2 lots that are vacant that can have access to that parcel off of Jordan.
Crazy how I go through there and walk down there all the time and see those houses, and then you see it highlighted there. What's back there? Got no clue.
Take your map out next time you walk.
I pulled it up on my phone right now and looked at it. I was like, I.
Parcel number 9. Why doesn't that go all the way over 774?
I think that white house is there. Yeah, that's where that white house is.
Well, I think it speaks for itself. Not much land left. The Centennial Farm, you could pretty much assume it's going to be a Centennial Farm for all. Okay, page 22.
I really enjoyed this section. I think I'm mathematically minded and I love the statistics. I thought it was really interesting. Is there, for the population over time, I see it ends with 2022. Is that just the most recent data that we can get? 2023 not available?
I will check that. As far as I know, that's the most recent, but I can double check though.
Interesting.
This
to watch
all
that
of
population.
the 5-year American Community Survey data. So I'll double check though.
Tells me I'm in the smallest age Finding. Now, did I miss, is there a change in median age over time? Place. The reason I ask is there's a sense that all of a sudden you think the population is aging until a bunch of young families move into my neighborhood. Present company included.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can do a 10-year change on that and
If
double
there's
check.
anything significant on that. A 10-year change would be interesting. Like all these young couples. Same thing if you had a 10-year on median household income. Historical data part, trends. I look for trends.
On all these pages of statistics, most of the verbiage is all underlined. Is there a purpose for that?
Everything underlined in the document is brand new, so that new text. If there were minor updates in other sections, I didn't change anything that was insignificant or just radical type changes, but all the underlined sections are new text to this document altogether.
Okay.
Were there any, when you were going, was there any stats you saw that stuck out to you earlier?
That
Changes?
that stuck out.
Yeah.
You know, the income I thought was, I mean, the income definitely did not keep up with inflation. I thought that was kind of definitely stuck out to me. The population just being pretty stagnant and kind of level, it seems to have dropped from 2020 to 2022. So losing population, the age range, I was almost thinking the same thing as you, Roger, that there'd be a more of a reflection of a population from 18 to 64, or even some of those age groups, the younger age groups. But in 2016, the proportion of residents between 18 and 64 was 60%, and then it dropped to 50% in 2022. So
What page are you on?
22. So we're all getting older, and there's not as many young families as I kind of assumed there would be, but
The underlined section that you've added, when you change that, will you make the font the same as the other that you have on the page?
I will see what I can do. The infographic font is a little bit different from everything else, just because it's part of a census website that I'm using for this that comes up with those charts and tables. But what I can do is I can probably just clip that and then put in a text box and make it consistent. So yeah, absolutely.
You just
Kind of thinking out loud how I can do that, but yeah, I can do that.
Just can't highlight and write. What doesn't work on this?
Yeah, under there's the figures with bold text, and there's some observations against the MSA. So I can make that a consistent text for all the infographics.
Now that you mention it, what font is that?
In the infographics?
No, in the document as a whole, when I first start up right off from page 1 and 2.
So before you came in, Mayor was complimenting
Font.
the font that you utilized. Very pleased.
Thank you.
He was very pleased.
thank Max Dillon for that. When he put together the original version, I did have to change, like the cover page, I had to, that's a Myriad Pro bold. So I think the new font on the front page is a change, because I think some of the fonts in Adobe, and maybe there's designers that know this better than I do, but Adobe fonts are kind of hard to figure out, and especially when you're the update and then you lose some and you have to, it's beyond me. That's why I used to work with younger people who knew how to do this.
As soon as you
I-
break
I
from
will-
Arial, as soon as you break from Arial, the crowd goes wild.
I wish I could say I'm responsible for all the fonts, but I might have to get it.
That looks
some
good.
expertise.
I did think it appropriate that you selected that picture for the cover that says, because it says Horizon Planning. That is a horizon.
Yeah, this picture turned out really well.
Yeah.
Just the colors of it just really look good. So.
I had on it's nitty gritty, but page, and I know you said that more eyes will look at this. Oh, sorry. On page 24, I noticed it says like the second bullet point down, we're rent or occupied, and then there's a slash. I don't know if you want to remove that. Again, I know this is nitty gritty, but we can catch it now. It might help. And then I did have a question on page 25, the third bullet. So the average travel time is 20 minutes and the majority of workers drive alone. Should we say the average travel time to work is 20 minutes? Is that what it's referring to?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I think it's important
And
to
then I
make
think
that.
it segues nicely because that next infographic discusses transportation to work. So, but yeah, if you just want to write to work.
It's in there.
Surprised at the 25 years.
I was also a little bit surprised by that. Majority of homes built in the city are less than.
I
Um,
wondered about
It's almost some of the census data I want to double check and just so I don't know. I actually thought the same thing. It was a little surprising to me, and that majority isn't just over 50%. I don't think so. Let me double check that one.
You say it's less than 10. Very big, page 27 now.
No, that may be a mistake on my part. I think I was using this bar chart below it. I think year moved in may be based on the current, like how long people have actually lived in the city, not when the house was constructed and first occupied. So that may actually be an error in interpreting that table. So let me see if I can actually find. I know I can find the age of structure that is available in the census. So let me double check that, and then. Yeah, I think this. Now that I look at this again, the year moved in. I think it's saying, you know, those residents who live in a house in Ferrysburg now, how long have they been in that? And so, basically, how long people have been in their current home. But I know I can get the year built information from the census, so I'll make sure I'll add that in as well.
I've been in my house for. Good neighborhood.
What was that?
I've been in my house 44 years. Good neighborhood. Moved to the right place.
When you said you were surprised about it. the age screwing, not going a little younger. You've said that to me before, and I was shocked because like when I go when I take all the boys to Leppings or we're out and about or at a park, people say that. Oh, do you live wherever? And the guys like, oh my gosh, there's so many younger families moving. I think you said something too. So I was kind of surprised too that it didn't change. Because I've had people tell me like, oh, there's younger families moving in.
Roger, you're the top 14 percenter here on this chart. So.
How'd they go from 8 to 14?
At 14% as in lived in your house since before 1990. So I'll add in the general housing year built information from the census. I'll get something in there on that. So I'll do some general updates on demographics, and I'll probably expand upon the observations, double check those, and change the fonts on the infographics, and some general updates. So have a good punch list for demographics.
And just looking again at that population by age range, it's 60% are under 60 years and median 51. Median's misleading. Anyway. So that might be a cutoff point if you looked at historical data. It was 60 plus and 0 to 60. Give you pretty. Okay, we're up to 26. 7.
Notice on page 27, at the bottom, it says distribution, just the first 2 letters are capitalized. Sorry, it's the teacher and me that's finding these little things, but that might not pick up on a spell check. So just the I in distribution.
Oh, got it. Yep.
Yeah.
I noticed on page 26 also that this makes the publication official when we have a planning commission member.
Oh. Well, I don't know if you're referring to me, but I actually was going to say I noticed that on page 26 and then on page 34 that those images are very similar, and I would ask if there was another image that we could replace on page 34. I don't need to be in the same pose twice.
Well, your hands move. We're good.
Yeah.
We were gonna make a flip book so you can flip it.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, if we want to change
that's
that
a good
image,
point. I think they are too similar to have, and I'll see what else I have from my camera from that night.
yeah, I do like the image, like on page 26. I love like seeing the community engagement, but yeah, just on that one, I don't know.
Yeah, too similar. I can swap that out, or we can find something
It's
else.
the same photo, it's just cropped a little bit. Yeah, Jordan likes a larger photo.
Yeah,
she wants the
you
chapter
can keep
3
it.
title page.
Okay.
Get that smaller one out of there. Regina's in a small. Struggles.
Maybe we could get a picture of Roger and put him in that
No,
space.
hardly. I've not signed the release.
There we go. Send it to Dave.
I've not signed the release. I wasn't here that day. Where's it?
I put your group picture on page 54, but I'm not. We could always ship that. I just want to make sure I toss it in there, and some of the overall design with pictures and paragraph blocks. You might see that some pages are kind of text heavy. I'm going to look at this and just make sure the whole thing is easy to read and it's not too text heavy. And I can break things up as needed with white space or pictures, add in some extra pages if we need to. So I'm going to look at it from kind of a design perspective once all the content is there. It will kind of even things out over pages.
I don't want to cut off anybody's thoughts and skip past chapter 3 if there's any other input. I did notice moving on to the next chapter, I think there's like 2 chapter 5s. I think it goes chapter 3, chapter 5, chapter 5. So with the Ferrysburg Nature Preserve, goals and principles, on page, was it 36? I think that should be chapter 4 because I think then the next one, chapter 5, and the previous chapter is chapter 3.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So really just page 36 needs to say chapter 4, not chapter 5.
Okay, so just it's a. Okay, I think I see what happened. I had originally thought about adding in a new, an entire housing chapter, but including that in Ferrysburg tomorrow. So I think I copied over a chapter and then deleted it, but then I deleted that was chapter 5. I see what happens.
Got it.
Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
I don't think whatever comments. Okay, so chapter goals and principles should be 4 then.
I don't know if we want, like, I noticed when I looked, it doesn't really say the chapter in the content. Is there a way to incorporate?
Yep, I'll get that in there.
I don't know. I don't know if you can write like, chapter 1 dash introduction, chapter, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yep.
Even need chapters.
Yeah, I think the chapter numbers be helpful overall to keep those, and then just make sure the table of contents include those in addition to their titles. And there's a lot. This goals and principles chapter 4. This is there's some significant changes here, and so I think I'll maybe walk through this very quickly. So the goal 1 was originally you see that the underlying text was, I think it was just maintain Ferrysburg small town character. So I thought that was kind of we could really kind of expand on that and really make this more of a downtown specific goal. So I kind of expand upon that. Strive for a vibrant, fun, family-oriented, and year-round downtown through development and redevelopment efforts that maintain Ferrysburg small town character. And then I added in a number of principles that reinforced our conversations over the last few months. So just the ones that I added in here, concerned that the balance, and that was a big highlight of our conversation, was we need to make sure that we're balancing this redevelopment with this small town charm. The other one I said, walkable neighborhoods. The third one is hold commercial industrial buildings to a high architectural appearance standards. There's a typo
I think
there.
there's two spelling errors in that one that you're talking about.
Yeah, and that, not sure why the font
Sure,
kind
and
of.
then existing on the last.
Top of page 38 can be.
So in goal one, in general, these principles are really addressing the appearance, design, small town character, walkability, reimagine Pine Street corridor in general through reimagine Pine Street through redesigned public spaces, encourage mixed use development with higher densities downtown. And then I think it was actually Gary had mentioned it 2 months ago. It was like, why don't we sometime consider City Hall downtown, but in the area that we're calling downtown? So I know that's kind of an aggressive goal, but not something that we've ever really talked about in the planning commission meetings for the last couple of years. As far as I've worked with you guys, so I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. So I thought I could just kind of put that as a plan for a long-term shift of City Hall and other public or community facilities to the downtown area to anchor the downtown as a focal point. So that could be your 20, 30-year plan. I mean, we might all be gone and retired in Florida and wherever else by then, but it might be a good thing to just say, hey, we should focus public facilities and community buildings in the downtown area as kind of a part of redevelopment efforts. So it might be a longer range, but might plant the seed for that.
I
think Gary's wife made that recommendation, so
Okay, so as you're talking, I'm listening, and I see that we have chapter 4, goals and principles, and then we have chapter 5, Ferrysburg tomorrow. But a lot of the goals and principles that we're talking about, to me, kind of feel like they are Ferrysburg tomorrow. Defining a downtown, and changing it, changing up the mobility and improving and traveling streets. So is that like, I mean, is there a reason why separate from, like, I'm almost thinking like to make like this chapter tomorrow and then have the principles like a subset in that chapter, or I don't know. I understand that having a chapter about goals and principles is important, but to me, it's all forward thinking, Ferrysburg tomorrow. And then we have that chapter, 4 pages later. I don't know. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Or I don't know how exactly it would best be put together, but it seems like it could kind of be morphed.
Yeah, it's all future. It's all what we want to be and what we want to achieve and how we're going to get there. So, I mean, it is tomorrow. I mean, we could combine the chapters. Let's see, we could call future Ferrysburg tomorrow. We could call that more of a future land use chapter in a way, or combine them.
I like the term Ferrysburg tomorrow. I think that's, I mean, for your reader, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it instantly gets to the point of what you're trying to achieve. Like, I would like to see that stay in some capacity, but yeah, I just felt like it was kind of, I mean, rather redundant, but just, I don't know. I don't know if there's a better way to have it.
Goals and principles. Goals are one thing, and there's implementation, but we keep repeating the same thing, one master plan to another. I have a problem with some of those things, but I'm not go there. But, think about what we're saying. Is it really?
Do we have action steps to get there? Or is it just a vision?
This vision's a vision, I know that.
Well, I mean, a few things. Sometimes goals and principles at the beginning of the plan. I mean, I've seen it done to where you put those right up front. So that could be one idea, or just combine goals and principles in the Ferrisburg tomorrow and just make it Ferrisburg tomorrow chapter. I have no issues with that. The goals and principles, it's almost like a summary. You know, some goals are overarching, and they're general. Principles get a little bit more specific, but they're still just refining ways to achieve the goal. And then then we have more specific recommendations in Ferrisburg tomorrow for future land use and for street improvements and streetscaping, parks, whatever else. So that gets to more of the recommendations, and then implementation is the actual implementation steps. It is update the zoning ordinance to address all of the housing recommendations that we made in Ferrisburg tomorrow. So, I mean, I think we could easily just, maybe as a first step, just combine goals and principles in Ferrisburg tomorrow into one and see how that flows. And I can kind of play with the overall format to see if that's a good way. I mean, I think it would be fine to combine those. And then from there, maybe we can see if things should be rearranged in any other way.
Are we getting pretty close to a rewrite?
That's the well, I mean, there's no, in terms of a rewrite, there's really nothing in the act, in the Planning Enabling Act, that makes a distinction between an update and a rewrite, even though it says an update is a 42-day review period, a rewrite is a 63-day review period, but there's no guidance of what extent equals a rewrite. I've always done 42 days, really.
Our definition.
But in terms of like but to kind of the intent of this process, you know, a complete reformatting, complete rewriting was not our intent. But we can certainly make some changes with the overall chapter structure and combine those. That's easy enough
My
to do.
thinking is, while we're at it, because this much work has gone into it, flipping a couple things around is okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And everything we've mentioned tonight are
Yep.
those are our straightforward, quick changes.
So it's not a matter of getting that to that rewrite, total rewrite, because why would you tackle a project anyway if you weren't in the process of redoing? Why would you leave something undone? Where I look at it. So these are good ideas. How it comes out. I'd want to look at goals as being realistic. Sometimes we have visioning, but maybe the goals aren't that realistic.
Roger, you being on this file, has this format remained the same for years? With just a couple tweaks, have you seen a full-on rewrite?
I have, but if the way it's evolved over the years is it's just gotten better, because you start getting, planners have gotten better, process has gotten better. There's citizen planner thing that you can have access to make the whole thing better. Or data available, and you end up with a document that is pretty sound. And I've compared this to what other communities are doing around here, and we're pretty close. The formatting's a little bit different, the fonts are different, but we want to be right up there because we got a story to tell, complicated story to tell.
In the 2018 effort was a pretty significant update from the 2012 effort. But 2012...
Did you do that?
I was not involved in 2012, but 2018, yes.
Okay.
But looking back at 2012, we generally modeled the structure, it looks like, because we begin with community description, existing land use, demographics, goals and objectives, which is now goals and principles, future land use, implementation. But then we have some sub-area plan after that. But even though the whole thing was refreshed and reformatted and looks a lot different than the 2012 plan, it generally followed the same overall outline structure. To some extent, there were some changes, but
this is my first time going through this process, but I feel as I read this, I was actually surprised to see a lot of the things that we've talked about in the last 2-3 years. Like, I felt like that was incorporated in this, and I was surprised to see. I thought it was just going to be a couple numbers were changed and it was going to be the exact same thing as this, but again, I've only been through, this is my first, so I don't know if it's always like this, or I felt like this does have our touch on it.
That's the way I look at it, is depends on who's sitting up here and how much involvement you want. And I feel like this group has been very involved, and that's part of the process. And I think it's very, so use your talent, utilize your talent, go for it. Because this has our name on it. Anything that's got my name on it, I want it to be good. That's David's name. Greg's name.
yeah, and with that, I think the way the goals read now, aside from the couple typos that we'll handle, goal 1 is downtown. Goal 2 is mobility and safe streets and streetscaping. We have a very strong section there based on, I thought we had a great conversation on our downtown transportation, activity, road, streets. We have a strong goal 2, which is really revamped. 3 is more of that is a city of parks goal. So we previously had a goal concerning parks, natural spaces, but I think this is more clearly says what our vision is for city of parks. 4 is kind of a visual and physical waterfront accessibility, connecting downtown area and industrial redevelopment areas. That's similar. That's pretty much the same as what we've had. 5 is that balance of industrial growth with small town character, and 6 is housing. So we did not have a housing specific goal in the previous plan. So I thought, based on the grant funding, everything else in our conversations about the toolkit, the housing toolkit, it was very important to have this new goal 6 in here to reflect our efforts to take what we could from the housing reform toolkit.
Okay, the other request is on page 32. The picture there should be a full page picture. That makes it an official document.
No.
We already had to
Not
take
necessary.
out the other picture based on your request, so we.
We did what?
Well, she
I
had a
submitted
chapter page.
I submitted a photo for,
I thought you were gonna say I submitted a formal grievance. Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
submitted a photo of our chair
I'm
here.
just like goal 5. So balance it. I'm just kind of comparing because I have the 2018, and I know they're similar, and this is not a rewrite. I understand that, but so like I don't know. I feel like I'm looking at these goals, and maybe I'm getting too in the weeds here, but just making sure that these principles do align with what we're doing. So I see like goal 5. So encourage the development of the Carmen Drive 2nd Street area into a small scale light industrial office park. Like, is that something that we're doing? Are we still doing that? Because 5 years ago we were doing that. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little too involved in this,
It's
but
ongoing.
yeah, so it's just an ongoing.
And so many of those things too are market driven. In
Yeah.
other words, all we can do is change zoning and say, okay, you can build a house in Ferrisburg now without a garage, hoping that makes for more workforce housing. But so much of it is market driven where we're reacting to someone coming to us and saying, hey, I want to do Creekside.
I would argue that everything is market driven. Because the city does not invest in property.
I understand that,
We
but
don't
we
buy
can,
property.
through regulations, we can make things more attractive.
Only if you
Or
have
with TIF.
somebody who's willing to put money into it.
I
first place.
understand.
And we
It
can,
starts there.
we can rezone for housing that's affordable and nobody will build it.
Yeah.
So it's a question of, and I know what you're saying. You make it available, or you say you're in business to change things, but when it comes down to it, if someone doesn't come in with the dollars to do it, then it doesn't matter what you. I say market driven. We don't have an economic development corp that buys up property.
And Jordan, to your point, when I look at goal 5, that's the one of any goal that just doesn't knock my socks off. It's just kind of there. It's been there, and I think I just kept it in because otherwise we're axing a complete goal. So I thought maybe we have something about that industrial area. Just above that in goal 4, I noticed I didn't underline it, but the second and third principle I believe are new. So the one, strive to balance the rights of waterfront property owners to enjoy or develop their property with the ability of neighboring property owners to continue to enjoy their own property and use the city's water resources. Wondering how I thought of that? It was because think about the last couple months, or earlier this year. So and then through zoning incentives, encourage any future development of waterfront industrial sites to include public access. So I thought that was an important one too. If redevelopment of Johnson Boiler or any other waterfront site, we should really be looking at ways to ensure public access. So goal 4 is a bit more updated than it appears because I did not underline those 2. And I think number 1, I just added in the underline. And number 4, work with Spring Lake, Grand Haven. That I think that was I didn't really understand that principle, but I kept that in just because I didn't know if public viewing decks in non-motorized access, US 131 bridge. I wasn't quite sure. I mean, I'm not sure what the history there is. I
think they got put in there years ago because there was talk about getting rid of the drawbridge and put in a 45-foot high span of bridge across from Grand Haven to Spring Lake. And so the communities got together and decided on a plan they would support.
Should we eliminate that, or is that still valid? If I read this right now, if I was just pick this up, when I read this, I would think, oh, that US 31 bridge is getting replaced in the future. And if that's, I don't want that to be misleading, but
25 years out. 25 years.
Well, in the plan, it says it's at the 31 bridge, is that at the end of it?
Drawbridge. You know, they just put a lot of money in it a couple of years ago, so they're trying to make it last as long as they can.
But there's no money. Plus, you want a fixed span, or you want another drawbridge.
I hear you though, when you look at it and you're just like if we decided to do this 20 years, be on this, and then 20 years from now we're like,
20 years we're gonna be
Jordan, that's the same darn thing we looked at 20 years.
years.
But there's small things. So when you said
Grab it, Jordan.
waterfront access, and then you mentioned 4th Street, and then we know, like Craig mentioned a month or two, we did look at this is what the development was, sent it to us, looked at it. So it's like,
I mean, if you're saying that
Market.
it's not going to happen until for 25 years, I personally don't think it's relevant to keep, and we can add it back in 20 years, but I don't know, I'm one person.
The only thing I can think, the reason to keep it there is that bridge is redesigned, and the design that this one we've seen has a big impact on Pittsburgh landing area. And Ambar.
Yeah.
And it won't land until after Third Street. So there's no exit.
And I think when I read that too, it almost reads as it's an action step. Like next week are going to begin to work on this. But whereas a principle, I think maybe more generalized and say something like major road and bridge projects should ensure that we consider non-motorized access and public amenities or something. It maybe could be more generalized in that sense and just as a overall principle for any major
I like that.
infrastructure project. Whereas this is like, okay, when are we going to start our work?
Yeah. I like that. If that's a good compromise.
Under goal 2, it's for the safe means for mobility and all types of travel, improved streets and overall public. Is that kind of like what is that the section where like because we talked about like that for like 20 minutes, I think. That like on like the safety of walking across the street and stuff.
Which page were you on again?
38.
38 goal 2. Yes. So in goal 2, and then which principle?
I think he was just asking if,
In general?
if that goal pertains to the conversation that we had.
Yes. Yes. Everything here in goal 2 is really focused on that conversation. So I think goal 2 of anything was so what we're talking about the on-street parking, right sizing streets, planning for connectivity, considering regional connectivity for pedestrians and bikes. So yeah, all of that is more of the generalized goals of that conversation, and then we get much more specific in Ferrysburg tomorrow on pages 46, 47, 48, where we talk about all the Pine Street improvements. And that whole downtown plan, Roger and Craig, you probably know Brad Strader from LSL Planning, the S from LSL Planning. He's now with a transportation and traffic engineering company, and he's their chief traffic planner. And so I actually collaborated with Brad Strader on this section just to I had him look at Pine Street, and we chatted about the intersections and even the summary of our conversation from a few months ago. So Brad and I worked on this one a bit for the Pine Street mobility, on-street parking, access management type recommendation.
As it pertains to the M104 portion of it, or?
It's primarily the city segment, but there are some recommendations on the state segment, but it's acknowledged that would have to be a collaborative planning process with MDOT. Brad actually had mentioned, Craig, I think it was before your time as a city manager, that he had met with previous city manager and MDOT, and there's an entire conversation about designing that intersection and the area in front of the gas station and Pizza Hut. I think that said it was maybe after 2000. When did it might have been right before that, but he had actually met with the previous city officials and MDOT back 22 years ago, whatever it was. And so he actually remembered this street area and recalled the conversation from that long ago. So
Guy sounds top notch. Is he pulling out stuff from 22 years ago? That's pretty good.
yeah, Brad is is one of the state's experts on transportation traffic planning. So,
Well, when you worked with Ferrisburg, you remember.
Yeah.
Because it goes back, I remember some of those discussions on that. That's why I wonder about, does M104 actually go Pine Street, 3rd Street until it gets to 31?
The railroad tracks.
That's all state. So we're dealing with state MDOT.
It's a state route. It's ultimately their decision, but I mean, it is common for cities and MDOT to work together on collaborative planning processes to meet local goals. And I mean, certainly the state's going to be, they have different priorities, obviously, for moving traffic through as fast and as efficient as possible. They're not always focusing on the walker and the cyclist as we would. So, but it's, you know, that mindsets are changing over the years, and I think the state is more in tune with those types of local priorities. So, but it would have to be a collaborative effort.
Oh, we got the 3-way stop. Took the light out. It was a flashing red light and flashing yellow light, so nobody knew when to go. Crazy. So 3-way stop is more. But now that you've gotten in with your friend Brad Slater, we can talk about it some more.
Had to give him a call.
Well, he put in sidewalks. That's a state street, highway, they should put in sidewalks. We have a requirement in the city of Ferrisburg that you put in sidewalks.
So Ferrisburg controls anything north of that 3-way stop, is that correct? Okay, and that's where I think that's where we.
The on-street parking, the crosswalks.
All the way up
we-
to Smith's Bridge, and that, a lot of opportunity.
And I can see it's noted on here. Very well written.
Page 48, you had something about making that northbound west lane turn lane only. It used to be like that years ago, and then MDOT came and took it away.
Say that again? What did MDOT take?
Used to be a turn lane only on northbound on the west lane.
Oh, really?
MDOT said that they had to have sufficient signage to notice that. There was nowhere to put any more signs, so they took it away. So you could either go straight or turn left.
But those of us who are older still have the old habits, and the left lane's a left turn lane, the right lane's a through.
And then the guy next to you goes straight.
And
Yeah.
exactly, and then you worry about going south and at the stopping there, and you expect the guy to turn.
I think that would be also more important if we had on-street parking north of 3rd, to have the one lane go forward, and so you just know that they'll have to shift over a bit as that constricts with on-street parking. So it might be more important at that point to have that as a left turn, northbound left turn at 3rd, and then one going north. That would align more with our streetscape, and they call this Brad they call it a right sizing street. I think the previous term was road diet. So it's a
Okay.
narrow lanes and on-street parking as a road diet, but I guess right sizing might be the new buzzword.
That's a new one, yeah.
And we also did chat about the lane width, and I mentioned in this one of the paragraphs is I think we said 11-foot lanes, but we don't want to go any less than that because we have to consider that there are trailers going through this area in a marina, boating activity. So in some cases, they would have recommended narrower lanes for this type of environment, but we have to consider types of uses along Pine.
Yeah, exactly, I wouldn't go narrow.
So I have a question. I don't think it's too far in the weeds. So we identify these goals and these things that are really important for our city to make change in. So how do we like implement that or initiate that change? So, you know, we're talking about this, we're putting it in our master plan. My fear is that it's in our master plan, but then they're really, you know, 5 years later, we're still talking about, oh, we should make a change. How does, if we're talking safety crosswalks north of Pine, how does that change actually happen? Where does it start? Is kind of my question.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's you know, we have to plant the seeds here. We have to prioritize what's the most important. Then there's initially gonna have to be some funding for for this whole Pine Street corridor. I think you would have to do kind of a special area plan or a corridor plan with a traffic expert. Just, do a little bit more goal setting, a little bit of design work, just initial design work, coordinating with DOT, and then from there, when you have some more solid road plans that make sense, that are technically feasible, then it's budgeting, capital improvement budgeting. Could be looking for state funds in certain cases or grants or But some of these things will involve more detailed studies than what we can do in this type of.
Who institutes all that?
Sorry?
Who institutes all that? Where does it start? Who initiates it? I mean, we don't. It's it hasn't gone to council yet. What?
So sometimes, you look at Pine Street, it's getting pretty rough shape. So one of these days, that Pine Street between 3rd and Ridge Avenue is gonna have to be repaved. So when we start getting funding and start thinking about getting that project moving forward, we're gonna have these discussions on, are we gonna have on-street parking at that time?
When funding comes through.
Well, we have to start looking for funding, because that road's getting pretty rough from the bank.
But 168th is first.
168 will be in the spring, yes.
And this would be the guiding document to get us potentially to two-lane traffic.
This is something that the planning commission's recommending in the master plan, so staff will try and incorporate that
Yeah.
when the project's done. Or look at it anyway.
I was looking for the impetus. Okay. I guess it goes in conjunction with other city activities, and that's really what it involves. Is it's one thing you can paint striping on the streets, and that's DPW, but then what else? Narrowing it down there's a lot to it. Just think about how do you get from point A to point B.
William Ferry Park, I feel like, is evolving, growing, events there, and I feel like it's a more popular place to be with the new pathway, and just it's hard if you're on the other side of the street. Over.
And that's where you don't want them crossing unless you're north of 3rd Street.
Yes, but right now that doesn't exist.
Signage.
Like right now, I saw several times moms with kids when they're waiting for class to get done, going in front of that gas station. They're just to run across the street with the kids right there. I think, I don't know what, several times I'm like, oh no. So it's like, even if you
You can lead a horse to water, but gotta make it a bit.
Comment on 41. if we can- There's a couple lines on the right-hand side that says attached, it says products, attached housing products and attached housing products. Is housing products just a common term that we would expect in here, or is that, would it make more sense to say attached housing in the low density, blah, blah, blah? Is products a word that we need to have in there?
I think we can rephrase that. Product sounds a bit cold. When
Yeah,
it's
that's kind of what I was thinking.
It's
Yeah.
a home, so we could be a
Right.
bit more.
Thank you.
That's not. That doesn't support our small town charm when we refer to it as a product. So, I mean, it is kind of, I guess, maybe an industry term, but
Right.
I agree that you could wordsmith that.
That's
Okay.
what the Sears Roebuck catalog homes were. They were product.
Is
There's,
it more than once or just times?
it's twice, it's,
I see the consider.
consider and then reduce, that next line as well.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, and then the last line there, I have kind of a hard time with, says remove garage requirements for dwellings, but mandate sufficient storage space, and I just don't know how we can possibly mandate specific, like a storage space.
You know what? I think I actually remember that conversation, and I think this was from one of the memos, and I think we had decided that we were going to remove the mandate because we were going to keep it more generalized for now, and then the mandate term, we had said, okay, that would be something that we'd figure out during the zoning process itself. If we're going to create a rule, so we don't want to necessarily put rules and mandates and things like that in the master plan.
Right.
So I think that was actually supposed to be removed from that memo. When I copied over, that should be dropped.
Cool.
That's
Yeah.
what it
So would you like encourage, or would you just remove storage space altogether?
I just don't know how we can have,
Yeah.
if we don't have clear guidelines.
And that's where Virginia was, because she said that every time.
I think that was Regina's comment. Yeah.
Removing yeah. But then what do you do? Is there a planning definition of sufficient storage?
I think
has
we,
to be general.
So would it just say remove garage requirements for dwellings, period?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we could say something like, and maybe I think even later in the implementation, it's I usually like to say in the implementation steps, we're considering and assessing zoning edits to implement the master plan. So I always like to say consider and assess. So it doesn't really lock us in to say this has to be done, but the implementation step is, here are recommendations of plan. We're going to really consider and assess them during the zoning
I like that.
process where we're actually creating land use law.
Because there's more discussion to be.
Unless you just got rid of like butt mandate that way. Remove garage requirements for dwellings with sufficient storage tank.
But then there's that question of what's sufficient, and what's sufficient to you might
This
be
is
different.
later.
And
Then you get rid of the whole thing.
I think unless we can define it, I think we and then just take it on a case by case.
From the action step is action step 22. It is review, assess, and adopt as appropriate several zoning text amendments related to increasing the housing supply and affordability or attainability. So I think that's where if we just take out the storage part, and we still leave ourselves open to just reviewing and assessing and adopting as appropriate. So it's not saying we have to do all these things, but these are things we really should look into based on our assessment of the housing reform handbook.
Okay, I had one other thing too on 44, under low density residential, it says 3 to 4 per acre. And then I know we had this discussion, but I think in the old master plan, it had said 3 per acre. So I was just wondering about that change, but now it now says
3 to 4 is because the zoning requirements. So these districts, I think, June residential is 12,000. The other that we have 10,000 square foot and 7,000. So I was kind of looking at it from that perspective, just from a mathematical standpoint, it would be
Mhm.
more than 3, but less than 4.
Sure.
If you were to plan it under the respective zoning district.
It's a theoretical number.
Yeah, and I did. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on the density, and I think I still am going to highlight that just to make sure that those are appropriate.
Okay.
But we kind of have to look like traditional neighborhood residential. It's going to be, I think it's going to be higher because we're trying to fit in a more walkable traditional area. Dune residential is going to be higher density. Lakefront cottage settlement is higher density. Low density residential, that's 3 or 4. That's because the 4 is because of the 10,000 square foot lots. So what I thought was that I don't want to lock us into the conversation where we're reviewing a PUD hypothetically and said it's your master plan says this, so you can't do this. And I think we need to allow we need to be a little bit flexible with future land use language.
Sure.
Because we ran into that a lot with our recent case is something the master plan should allow for master plans do allow for flexibility. They are not intended to be rigid. And I think where we can, we kind of need to reinforce that with like future land use
That makes
descriptions.
sense. Yep.
Now zoning needs to be rigid, but we make that decision during the zoning process.
Makes sense.
But some ordinances will actually remove those types of numeric densities. I've seen that done where it's just like they more describe it, the characteristics. They just don't even include that, so they can figure that out at the zoning update process. So I kind of struggle with that in my mind as I was looking at this, and I might still maybe offer some suggestions for the next round.
Well,
on
that
as
makes
well.
a lot of sense. So thank you.
Mentioned this before, but that going back to my comment about theoretical, and that is 4 units per acre. You've got 10,000 square foot lots, and an acre is 43,000 square feet. There's no room for sidewalks and streets or anything else. So therefore, it's theoretical. You can't plot that on a 15-acre piece of property. You can't get 60 houses on. No way they won't go at that street. So
If you had them all aligned across an existing public street and maximize, but that's
yeah, right, a long lot like that, but that has nothing to do with units per acre though. Lot size.
So one other thing I had too on 46 and 47, do we have any of those of actual Perrysburg insert in here?
Is it on 46 and 47.
I know.
In any
Any Ferrisburg specific photos, just since everything else in this master plan is really like seems to be actual photos of Ferrisburg. I just wondered if there's any resources that we could actually plug some Ferrisburg photos in.
Yes, I think we can. I think what I need to do on both these pictures too, they're showing very specific recommendations. So
Right.
maybe what I could do is say example of this in this community, just to kind of show that this is not Ferrisburg, but I think in other cases,
Right.
you certainly can put in local pictures.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Okay.
I'll add captions as example, like at 47, example mid-block crossing. I think that was called a protected median. Let me see what the term was, but we could reference exactly what this is. It's a going blank on what they call that type of crosswalk. It's just universal. A median refuge, but then the striping itself is called that.
It's like a Beatles cross.
Continental crosswalk. Yeah, very, very fancy. So maybe what I could do is as you suggested, do a caption here saying example of mid-block crossing with pedestrian signage and continental crosswalk.
We need a crosswalk like that between, BP, Pizza Hut and William Ferry Park.
You might have to control F the Pizza Hut if they announce who's going there. Update that.
That would be I don't think MDOT would allow that
I understand.
unless you put a bridge. Well, a bridge. Fuck it.
I like the ones they used to have in Flint. In Flint, they had in the factories were on the other side of the highway.
Oh,
They
yeah,
had yeah.
right. Oh, they're fairly common. Not cheap, but fairly common. You could put, just put caption under that picture, 47, SAS Leppings Plaza. Could be. Concept. Yeah, I like more pictures. Whatever. Get some more for at page 48, 49, 50, 51. They're all text. We have room to put some pictures on and find summer shots. Nothing like go out today.
Do you feel like you have pictures, or do you feel like you're scrounging?
I need pictures. We get some from city staff, and then if anybody has any too, or if you know someone who has pictures, I am begging and pleading for pictures at this point. So
Okay.
anything you have,
Let me
we should have had it.
through
We should have over the summer. We should have challenged each other to take pictures around town, but then all of a sudden it becomes fall and winter. It's like, I can't do that anymore. So,
Yeah. I might have a few.
Okay.
Over the years, I've taken a few.
Yeah. Anything we can spread this out, add pictures.
Makes it more readable. If people will pick up something and they'll see a picture with a caption and less text. What breaks the text up? You can put another page. You don't even have to put another page in there. Got a half page. And some pages they won't fill up the whole page, so got room. Without changing the verbiage.
Was there any other direction you think we should go in together? Like good information or right now, or?
I think unless there's anything that's really sticking out to you that's missing or wrong, I think everything, I'm going to really work through this and make sure that all the statements are refined a bit more, do some quality checking. I'm relieved that we're pushing this till January for distribution, that we have a little bit more time to work through this. I was hoping for that, and so I think it maybe as you're looking through this over the next couple of weeks, you can always forward any comments, or if you want to take a shot at rewriting a sentence or a paragraph. I know, Roger, you had said something about even the introduction that you wanted to work on, but if anyone else has anything that you feel like could be improved or wordsmith, just send them through Craig and I, and we'll make sure it gets in there. Anything else you want me to know over the next couple of weeks, I'd say we keep the communication going. Make sure it all gets in there, rather than having to wait until the next meeting. Maybe it's the 11th. I'd say if any of that can be done before Christmas would be great. That would give me another week and a half or so to get everything in there.
You take your time off. Christmas is used.
That's catch-up time. No, that's relaxing time to work on fun planning efforts and not being annoyed by public phone calls.
Okay.
So that's the
So it's your to-do list from your wife.
I'm sorry?
To-do list from your wife.
I'll ask her if I could have a couple days in the office. I'll double check.
I know how that goes. Yeah.
The kids are off, so they'll be in and out of the office.
Okay.
We'll get it done though.
Okay. Time is we have time on our side. We have time to get it right, to have a document that we're all proud of. And we take the time to do that. Gave David some time to do that. And that there's no reason to rush. So looking at January, go to council, or you want to come back and have planning commission look at the draft before it goes to council.
Yes, I think the planning commission should take a final look at it before it's distributed. And real quick to clarify, are we meeting on the 2nd or did we push it to the 9th? I didn't hear this. Did you guys settle on your January schedule yet?
Everybody said they'd be your second, except Jordan.
Okay, okay. Might have been while I was still on the icy road, so I.
And we confirmed that last meeting.
I'm having outpatient surgery, so I may be on Zoom camera. I'm not a voting member as of.
So that first meeting will be a structuring meeting?
Oh, July.
Oh, that's July. Yeah, you're leaving and who's the big, is that vice chair? Then just.
Yeah. You want it on the agenda to select a new chair?
Oh, I just,
I think it's part of the process.
Yes. What day is this?
January 2nd.
January 2nd.
Everything's okay. You go to council Monday. Except the 2nd is on Thursday. Would have to be 2 weeks. If the meeting's on Thursday, I don't think you want to get it to council for the meeting. That's asking too much. You can, unless you gave it to them or early for the meeting the following.
I'll put on the 17th.
Council?
Because packets will be out that day anyway, Thursday and 2nd.
That would be the timeline. But the more time council had to look at it too. Okay, we have a timeline?
Council meeting, what's the council meeting date again?
17th.
7?
June, sorry. Monday.
Okay, 20. So packets go Thursday the 6th. Okay. So we can get that, get them earlier then, give them more than those. Yeah, because if we're in good shape on the 2nd, there might be a couple minor things after that meeting. They might recommend distribution with a punch list corrections or something like that. Get those done soon after and get that out to them.
we receive the packets or this document that council will get, because I'm assuming there's going to be some edits to this. Can we be privy to that as well?
Yes. So anything after the 2nd. So if there is a punch list of minor items, we could make sure that goes to the full commission and the council. And then you would still, all you're really saying at that point is that we're comfortable with this as a review draft. you're still acknowledging that you may still have, there may still be some work to go on it, but it should be in pretty good shape for distribution. Still have time to make updates after that.
At least the clock will start ticking at the council's meeting for the review times.
So you'd probably have your public hearing, probably have to be in March. So if 42 days started, if council's okay on the 20th, you have to check the calendar, but you might just be able to make the March 6th. I guess we'd have to count the days, but it would be kind of tight. But your hearing could be sometime in March or after.
And I would just advise going into April, if that's the case, that usually falls around spring break. So we might want to be cognizant of that if it were to fall. I think spring break might be a little bit later this year, but you might want to, I don't want people not to be here because they're out of town.
Yeah, and we could look at the calendar, maybe at our January meeting, we could look at the calendar and just make an assumption, okay, if council's okay with this on January 20th, this is when our hearing could possibly be. Council has to sit on it until their next meeting in February. That would push it back probably to April at that point. Maybe we just look at a couple days.
Where's the public hearing here?
There would be a public hearing here with the planning commission.
It goes to city council too.
Might be something we might want to advertise on social media, or is that not? Would you want? I mean, I feel like that's like a hot topic for the city, to the master plan, and I feel like a lot of people maybe don't know what's going on, and that might be something that people might want to have a say on. I mean, for the input session, there were a lot of people here, so but I think it was advertised, so maybe that's something to think about. I don't know if that's allowed, but
yeah, it's up to you. I mean, if you decide in February that you want to do a more formal presentation, I could actually do a slideshow and just walk through the plan with images and summarize plan. I don't do that often, take advantage of the screen and everything, but if we wanted to have a public hearing, I mean, all it is opening up and getting comments, but we could go above and beyond and really do a presentation if you want, or
You could do that at city council, PowerPoint presentation.
I would certainly advertise it in social media because that's where people get their information anymore, if they get information. But this is something that we produced a document for the benefit of the citizens, and the more participation by citizens, the better off we are. We had their participation early on, input, and they deserve to see the final product and take a look at it. It's the least you can do is invite them, and then whoever wants to show up is certainly welcome and encouraged. Another reason for slow walking this. Oh, good. Lots of good stuff. Anything else on the master plan? Get a bit bigger picture. Okay, next we move to public comments. Seeing no public here at 9:08. Close the public comments at 9:08 and 10 seconds. Zoning Administrator's report.
Report.
Chairman's report. Great meeting. Thank you. Good thinking. I told you this is a good group, and I firmly believe that. And Mr. Drosik says we're his favorite client. I heard him say that frequently. And
I don't say that very often.
And then you can see why.
I see that there all.
And normally, normally these clients have 3-hour meetings. We keep ours to just. And, but anyway, thank you, David, for all of your work. I've enjoyed it. Greg, as usual, neighbor, you're around.
Yep.
Still got lots of stuff to do yet. So, thanks, everybody. I'll be around. If I'm not in the audience, I'll be on the wave that boy back to me. I wish that was two-way. Ask questions, but can't do that anymore. Anyway, it's been great. Drive carefully. And we'll see you, supposed to be Friday.
Yes.
Weather will be better. Okay. Members' reports.
I would just like to say thank you for sticking around. I know you tried to retire quite a while ago, and it's been nice to have you for this additional time. Thank you, and I just you have big shoes to fill in that seat of chair. So, just thanks for being here, and I hate to see you go.
Connor.
I have nothing. Thank
Well, I certainly thank you for stepping up to help lead us through this after you retired, Roger. Last Christmas party, my first Christmas party as mayor, I made mention of the fact of how important it was from a standpoint of continuity. I joined Kitchell Lindquist Dunes Preserve Board, and we had 2 of the founding members there that were still serving. And it's a tremendous hole when they left. And then we had the same thing happen here with John Rifle and now you, but you're able to mentor people, mentor the younger people, which is a wonderful thing. I think it's a great legacy to be able to pass that on with mentoring. So I really appreciate all your wisdom. And certainly I was just recalling while we were chatting about something else, about the work that we did together, you and Craig and I in his office over Smith's Bridge when we were trying to think of ways to reopen the crazy thing. And we concocted plans as to what could potentially happen and what was possible and how to do it. Involved. Appreciate all that. I have a file. Myself as well. Yeah. Well, it's been a great thing.
All right, so this is my formal announcement that I will not be at the January meeting. Just want y'all to know I'll be out of town. Dave, thank you for all your work on this. I know it was kind of nitty gritty tonight and we were finding spelling errors and little things, but this is really great. I know you put a lot of time into this, so thank you. And Roger, I'm gonna miss sitting next to you. I really have learned a lot from you. You are a wealth of knowledge and I really liked sitting right here next to you. You'll be missed, but I know you won't be gone. I know you'll be around.
Fun but not forgotten.
Yes, never.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention about this is the number of people I've met. Government, the city. I was on ZBA for a couple of years, and you just get to talk to people who are your neighbors, and you wouldn't normally get to meet. And that's the neat part. Is this community is diversified. That's the part I've enjoyed, and I'll still be around. And I retired on June 30th, 2022. And I want to thank the mayor for keeping us open. Watched all the meetings. And so I've been able to enjoy these couple of years. You'll be fine. You're a good group, well-schooled, dedicated. You'll be fine. So carry on. Read. Sure. Thank you. We did set the next meeting as 7th. No, 9th.
The next planning commission meeting? January 2nd.
Second.
Or like 5 and 6.
And with that in mind, comments for next week.
Next week, okay.
Maybe 19th or 20th. I was thinking we were